This beautiful, fiery girl never works, yet always has money to spend. Her way of making money is incredibly simple. Each day, she only needs to use binoculars to spy on a wealthy man and record his daily routines. One day, the man goes to the supermarket, but the water on the floor catches his attention. He instinctively looks up and sees a beautiful girl choosing wine. Sky waves and calls Chris over for help. Do you know anything about wine? She asks. I need someone to give me some advice. Sky successfully starts a conversation with Chris and captures his attention. As they chat, she deliberately wears a soaked shirt to make sure Chris notices her. Indeed, Chris's gaze lingers on her for a moment. He's completely captivated by her. She begins to speak more comfortably. Seeing her alluring figure, Chris starts to feel interested in her. But after they leave the supermarket, it's too late for Sky to get a taxi. Chris happens to see this as he leaves, so he offers her a ride. On the way, Sky complains to Chris about her roommate, who often uses drugs. Earlier, she had an argument with her roommate, but she can't afford to move out, so she's forced to stay with her. After hearing this, Chris feels sympathy for her. He offers for Sky to stay at his place for the night. However, at this point, Sky hesitates slightly and firmly declines Chris's offer. But as she steps out of the car, she lingers at her door, reluctant to go inside. Inside, she hears her roommate yelling. Chris sees Sky standing at the door. Understanding her inner reluctance, he pulls the car back, inviting Sky once again to stay with him. This time, she agrees. This mansion is worth $20 million. But for Chris, it's just the tip of the iceberg, because each day, he just sits there and can make $200,000. This is why Sky targeted him. Seeing this luxurious mansion, a money-loving girl like Sky feels delighted inside. Chris eagerly opens a bottle of wine. He planned to just sip a glass, but Sky drinks it all in one go. Seeing her so quickly take the bait, Chris hurriedly pours her another full glass. Both of them have their own intentions. Sky drinks so much that she removes her coat, and looking at the ice cream in Chris's hand, Sky takes it from him directly. Who could resist such a beauty like this? Seeing her seductive allure, Chris also loses his composure. He opens a cabinet in the house, filled with rows of luxurious red wines. Chris selects the most expensive bottle. Chris chooses the most expensive bottle. The two sit on the sofa, slowly enjoying it. Under the influence of the wine, the atmosphere starts to feel mysterious. Do you really want to go back there? Not at all. But is there another option? You could stay here. Sky immediately understands his hint, so she quickly removes her obstructing glasses. What happens next? You'll have to watch the original movie. No one knows how late they enjoyed themselves. But when Chris wakes up, she's nowhere to be found. Sky, tired after returning home, lies on her bed and begins to think about her next step. Chris, still single, isn't satisfied yet, so he goes to the bar where Sky works, hoping to continue their relationship. Chris buys a lifetime membership. This decision delights Sky, a girl who only has eyes for money. After her shift ends, she casually links her arm with Chris's. They originally planned to enjoy another night, but unexpectedly encounter a thief. It ruins the mood. Hey, you over there. Stay away from my car. We don't want trouble. We'll just drive away, okay? Alright, let it go, okay? I'll take you down first. Then I'll enjoy your girlfriend, you crazy car thief. I'll take you down. Don't run. Hey, don't start fighting. Wait. Chris clutches his leg, screaming in pain. From healthy to crippled, he now needs someone to take care of him. He was planning to hire a nurse, but Sky suggests he hire her. At night, I could even keep you entertained, she says without waiting for his agreement. She gets up and goes home to pack her belongings. With those long, seductive legs, who wouldn't be enchanted? Chris immediately gives her his home's passcode, and so, Sky transformed from pheasant to phoenix. Returning to her rental, she sees the landlord teasing her roommate. This old man isn't just greedy, he's also lecherous. He often spies on Sky while she's showering. Hearing that she's moving out, he mocks her. Sky smirks, turning into her room. But inside, she thinks, just wait and see how I'll deal with you. After packing her belongings, she says goodbye to her roommate. In reality, she was always using this naive girl. Only this rental apartment allowed her to watch Chris's house. Now that she succeeded, the roommate no longer held any value. Next, she had to continue her plan. Before acting, she took good care of Chris. Time to wake up, she says. After helping him sleep, she sneaks and takes Chris's phone, then uses facial recognition to unlock it. Chris's phone can control everything in the house. After Chris wakes up, he realizes his phone is missing. He suspects that Sky took it. He picks up her bag to check, and finds photos of Sky and her roommate. At that moment, something accidentally falls to the ground. Sky hears the noise and comes out. Realizing that Chris still has doubts about her, Sky quickly removes her robe to silence Chris. But that night, when Sky returns alone to her room, her expression changes completely. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All good children are just like me. The next day, the landlord comes to collect rent, and knocks on the door for a long time with no answer. So, he uses his spare key to open the door. Upon entering, he finds Sky's roommate has committed suicide in the bathroom. The landlord immediately calls the police. Lisa could never commit suicide. Her roommate had just moved out. And now this happens. Sky's identity is impossible for us to trace. What secret does Sky hold? That she needs to hide her identity? The next day, Chris wakes up and again finds his phone missing. He hurries downstairs to look for it. Just as he sees the news on TV, the more he watches, the more familiar it looks. He remembers seeing a photo of the two in Sky's bag. At that moment, Sky returns with fried chicken. You like chicken, right? Chris can't understand why Sky seems so happy. Doesn't she know her roommate is gone? Did you watch the news? Is there any good or bad news? Curious, he casually asks her. Unexpectedly, Sky confesses everything. My roommate Lisa, she's gone. Should I contact the police? If so, then I'd be an idiot. Why? Because I'm the one who took her out. Chris stares in horror, but Sky remains unfazed, recounting the entire process. She originally just wanted to use Lisa, but didn't expect the rebellious girl to fall for her. When moving out, she wouldn't let her leave. With no other choice, Sky had to take her out. After hearing this, Chris tries to assert his authority, but as a cripple, what can he really do? Get out of my house. Get out now. He's furious and utterly confused. Anyone would be. Now, the entire house is under Sky's control. As Chris tries to move closer, he's shocked unconscious by a jolt. Sorry, darling. The honeymoon is over. When Chris wakes, he finds himself tied to a wheelchair. Sky pressures him, demanding his account password. But faced with this terrifying woman, he still stubbornly resists. But Sky is patient with him. Get lost, you damn witch. She then picks up a nearby electric drill. I need all your passwords and security codes. Dream on. What's your mother's name? What's her maiden name? Eventually, Chris can't take it anymore, and reveals his bank password. With that, she transfers a portion of his assets. Meanwhile, as the landlord is cleaning up the rental, he discovers Sky's binoculars. Curious, he peers through them, and sees Sky mistreating Chris. It turns out that after transferring the money, she discovers Chris still has $50 million in bonds. Sky wants to take it all, so she grabs scissors to cut Chris's bindings, since his fingerprint is the password. But as soon as she frees him, Chris grabs her. They lose their balance and fall to the ground. Sky frantically reaches around and grabs hold of the scissors. After picking them up, she stabs him in the chest. Seeing that Chris won't give up his bonds, Sky holds up his phone, showing photos of his family. She intends to use it to threaten Chris, and it works. Chris gives in. Afterward, Sky shuts off all power in the house. Chris prepares to sell off all valuable items in the mansion. At that moment, a buyer arrives at the mansion. After the man enters the house, he realizes it's the car thief he encountered earlier. It turns out the whole thing was Sky's trap, for Chris as well. As the two leave the mansion, which had been sold off, the old man quietly drives to the mansion. When Chris sees someone on the camera, he quickly calls for help. The old man picks up a brick and smashes a window. Meanwhile, Sky's phone immediately starts sounding an alarm. It turns out everything in the mansion is under Sky's watch. Seeing something unexpected happening, she quickly turns around. The old man remains oblivious to the approaching danger. He scans the room, looking at all the items. It turns out he isn't there to help. He's just hoping to make a quick buck amid the chaos. Why are you in such a state, tied to a wheelchair? I saw Sky selling off the mansion earlier, so I came by to see if there was anything valuable here. I'll take off the tape for you. Just tell me where the valuable items are. Having no other choice, Chris tells the landlord that the painting on the wall is worth $7 million. Untie me, and it's yours. The old man, staying true to his word, prepares to untie him. But just then, the camera sounds. It turns out Sky has returned. She's back. Sorry about that. Seeing no way out, the old man picks up a nearby knife, but the woman remains calm, drawing a 50 centimeters blade from behind her. The old man, terrified, quickly retreats and runs upstairs. The woman, however, stays calm and approaches Chris, showing him as she deals with the old man. I'm coming. She begins the hunt. Every move of the old man is within her surveillance, because cameras are installed everywhere in this mansion. It can be said that with just one phone, she controls everything. Sky monitors the screen on her phone, locating the landlord's hiding place. Don't hurt me. This painting is worth $6 million. Meanwhile, Chris downstairs struggles and manages to break free from the tape. Ignoring his injured leg, he limps over and gets onto a snowmobile. Hearing the landlord's screams, Chris speeds up, fearing Sky will catch up, but going too fast. Chris is thrown off the vehicle. Just then, a car approaches. When the driver steps out, Chris urgently calls for help. He explains that a woman is trying to kill him. Seeing this, the man helps Chris into the car and quickly drives him to the hospital, handing him a phone to call the police. But just as Chris thinks he's been saved, hello? Is anyone there? It turns out Sebastian is also Sky's accomplice. He slams Chris's head against the car, rendering him completely unconscious. When Chris wakes, he finds himself strapped to a wheelchair, unable to move. At this moment, Sky approaches. She demands that Chris hand over his assets, promising to let him go. But Chris would rather die than comply. Without his fingerprint, Sky can't access the vault. However, Chris underestimated their ruthlessness. Sky grabs Chris by the throat, while Sebastian holds his hand on the table. Then, he pulls out a knife. As Chris endures the brutal torture, his ex-wife and daughter arrive at the mansion. The daughter rushes inside, looking for her father, while Jamie notices broken glass at the entrance. She's unsure of what has happened. At that moment, Willow heads upstairs and encounters Sky, who carries Willow downstairs. "Excuse me, but who are you?" "I'm Sky, Chris's personal assistant. Now, let go of my daughter." "Of course. Come here, sweetie. Where's Chris?" "Chris, your ex-wife is here to see you." At this moment, Sebastian steps out from behind. Chris's ex-wife and daughter are thrown into a dark room. Unexpectedly, the whole family of three is reunited in such circumstances. Meanwhile, Sebastian ties Chris's finger to his own. Then he drives toward the vault. Meanwhile, Chris accidentally discovers a vent. In the dark room, he comes up with a plan, asking his daughter to crawl inside, so she can unlock the door from the outside. Meanwhile, Sebastian reaches the vault manager, and uses Chris's finger to unlock the code. It appears the fingerprint sensor isn't reading heat. I guess it needs a reset. Maybe my hand's too cold from being tied up. Maybe I should call someone. No need, just give me a second. Luckily, in the end, everything works out without any issues. The manager leads them to the safe, taking out all the credit bonds inside. But both of them are completely stunned, because inside, there aren't $50 million worth of bonds, just a pile of worthless scrap paper. It turns out that Chris and his wife were going through a divorce. Jamie's lawyer, fearing an unresolved settlement with Chris, secretly transferred the bonds away. Without obtaining the bonds, they both hastily return to the mansion. Sebastian checks the surveillance camera on his phone, discovering that Willow has escaped outside. After entering the house, they start searching separately. When Sebastian approaches a room, he hears noises inside. He leans against the door to listen. Confirming the sound from within, he opens the door, only to be surprised when... "You dare hit me, you bastard. Injure me, will you?" Hearing the commotion, Sky rushes over, pointing a gun at Chris, demanding to know where his wife and daughter are. Sebastian urges her to just shoot Chris, but seeing Chris's expression, Sky remembers the beautiful moments they shared together. She turns and shoots Sebastian instead. With Sebastian incapacitated, Chris quickly grabs a nearby sickle, and strikes Sky on the neck. She screams in pain. Chris quickly picks up the phone, and tries to escape, but after removing the sickle, Sky is now filled with a desire to kill Chris. Chris swiftly hides in a secret room, then turns off all the lights in the house. Using his phone, every move Sky makes is now under his control. Waiting for the right moment, Chris decides to ambush her. But how could a crippled man possibly stand a chance against Sky? Sky quickly finds the sickle nearby. With smooth, precise movements, Sky swiftly gains the upper hand. At that moment, Jamie rushes out to attack Sky. Unexpectedly, Sky retaliates and attacks Jamie. Sky slashes Jamie's leg, leaving her in pain as she crawls toward Chris. Sky stands up, ready to finish them both off, only to be injured in the leg by Chris. At this critical moment, Chris's daughter, Willow, appears, and ends Sky with a single gunshot. Finally, both are saved. This brings the movie to a close. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. Goodbye and see you next time.